Yay. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. Apologies. We had just some technical difficulties, and the only way that we could fix it was to actually shut down the whole meeting. So I'm glad that you all got back in. We are going to dive right in. So I just want to introduce myself. I'm Christy Taylor. I am the Director of Leadership Development and Consulting Services at the Human Services Coalition. I am really excited to be able to offer this forum with Korsah, who's going to be able to talk more about our budget process and what it's looking like over the next few months. And I'm just going to turn it over because we've lost a little bit of time. So I just want to introduce Tompkins County Administrator Korsah Akumfi, and I'm going to turn it right over to you to dive in so that we can leave some time for questions.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize for sharing my money bag with somebody else that knocked me out of my own pocket, and I couldn't use my own currency. So I'm sorry. I'm
It is
sorry.
okay. I'm
I'm
just glad
really,
you're here.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to be here again with all of you. I think this is my second rodeo. It been a year and 3, 4 something months, and it's been great. I think my first encounter with all of you was a bit of a, what is this? And I'm really excited to know what all of you do now to a certain degree and how we can work together as we move into 2027. Let me put it that
Yes.
way. So we presented our budget projection to the legislatures a couple of weeks ago. So I'm using this opportunity to do the same, go through some few things we're seeing, and also some tough questions or decision point that are ahead of all of us. So I just want to start and say I'm pleased to present the Tompkins County 2027 Agency Budget Outlook for the community partner agencies, and also I'll walk you through the essential element of the county's economic health and well-being, and we also value the partnership we've built over the years. I want to be direct with you today. 2027 present us with a genuinely difficult fiscal picture. And I want to walk you through exactly what we're facing and why, so that we can leave an honest conversation, or we can have an honest conversation together. So I have here the economic conditions, which we usually share every single year. I'm not going to go through all of this based on where we are with time. So I'll move through some of the slides very quickly. So in terms of inflation, based on where we are, inflation is a bit elevated as compared to 2025, even though it is not as high as we were in 2022, but it's significantly above the federal target. The 3.26 is a match rate, but the last rate that was announced, I believe, for the period of April was around about 3.8%. In terms of consumer confidence, consumer confidence has declined since March 2025 and is now about 3.7 points lower than a year ago. Historically, declining consumer confidence is a leading indicator of reduced economic activity and often increased demand for the kind of services our agencies provide. This trend we are watching carefully as we think through the 2027 demands that are coming our way. Stock market is doing great for those who have investment, and also it's also a pointer to us in the community to see how investments are doing, and also how that impact county in terms of investment returns on our businesses, and also the county itself, and as well as our pension, our fringe implication as well. So annual unemployment, I'll go through this very quickly. So Tompkins County continued to outperform both the Southern Tier and New York State on unemployment. Our 2025 unemployment average was 3.4% compared to 3.9 for the Southern Tier and 4.3 statewide. That's a genuine strength of our local economy, driven significantly by Cornell, Ethics College, and our healthcare sector. However, the next slide shows a picture has shifted more recently. As of February 2026, Tompkins County monthly unemployment rate has risen to 3.8, and both the state and southern tier have seen notable increases as well. New York State is lower at 5.2. This upward trend is something we are monitoring closely, and it reinforces concern about growing service demand leading into 2027. We want to look at our indicator of need. So SNAP enrollment in Tompkins County is up 5% since 2021, though it has decreased 5% year over year, which is cautious positive sign. There are currently roughly about 4,500 to 4,600 households enrolled. The income threshold of 22,510 monthly for a single individual and 5,200 for family of four reflect how many working families continue to need support. This is the population your agency serve every day. Other information I just want to provide is that as of now, we don't have exact numbers from DSS, how many individuals have really lost the benefit with the new changes. And I think most of your agencies are working with DSS and providing support and services to make sure individuals are kept on the benefit. We'll continue to work with DSS to ascertain exact numbers. I know we have almost about 400 letters sent out. But we'll continue to work with DSS to get those exact numbers and indicate and go through those or provide you those information as well. When you talk about TANF, TANF is 100% state. So the TANF indication shows the caseload down 9% from February 2021 and down 10% year over year. Importantly, TANF is 100% state funded. So changes here have no direct local impact. However, a 5-year lifeline benefit limit means some long-term recipient will eventually transfer off TANF and potentially into other county-supported services. So if we look at safety net, which is 71% local and also 29% state, safety net cases are down 19% since last February, which is meaningful news. Safety net is 71, as I indicated. And also the state portion is just about the third of the cost. We are still carrying the several hundred cases, and this program remains one of our most significant cost drivers when caseload shift. So let's look at our cost drivers. What are the key indicators that causing a significant increase in cost? Our state mandate costs are increasing substantially. In total, mandate local spending is projected to rise by over 2.3 million from 2026 to 2027, representing 4.07% tax levy impact on its own. The biggest single driver is whole health, nearly 1.1 million increase, followed by social service about 689,000. These are not discretionary. We are legally required to fund these programs. For specific details on the expense side of our mandate, so looking at social services, the total projected cost in 2027 is just over 40 million, up about 1.1 million from the 2026 budget. Daycare and childcare costs are increasing, and all other DSS expenses are also rising. Our biggest bright spot is the safety net, which we are projecting a lower some significant savings of about 533,000. Not included in this number is over $7.7 million of local share when it comes to staffing, or that's the staff that are providing these services. Medicaid, I indicated it in red because we have no associated revenue. So if you look at the next slide, which is the revenue side of our mandate, daycare in 2025, we go 5.6 million, but we go back to the expense was 5 million. So roughly about 600,000 in revenue portion that goes to support staffing, but that is inadequate. So there's significant local share to those service provisions or the staff that are required to provide the services. As many of you know, the programs are mandated, but staffing is usually not a mandate, but we will need the staff in place to be able to provide those services as well. So the rest of the revenue indicators, like I said, zero revenue for Medicaid from state. These are all local, and our projection is over $12.3 million for 2027. So we also have a quick look at whole health mandate expense. Whole health is a significant concern for us in 2027. Total projected expense 7.78 million, up nearly 1.86 million over 2026. The biggest single jump is the preschool special education services, up $1.4 million. Psychiatric expense are also projected to nearly double from 425,000 to 900,000. These are areas where demand is driven by need, not by policy choices we can easily make things differently. Similar approach on the revenue side, we're seeing psychiatric expense has zero revenue. So every single cost in that area is 100% on the county and has a direct impact on our tax levy as well. The other areas do have some revenue, but proportionally is significantly low. If you look at 2025, for preschool, revenue from state was 3.9 million, but the county spent $6 million in providing those services. So those are the significant drivers that we're really concerned about. We are also projecting $3.9 million in preschool revenue, even though the expense is projected to be about $6 million. Okay, so let's have a quick look at payroll for the county. So personnel is our largest overall cost, and it is growing. Wages are projected as 62.2 million in 2027, up 1.6 million, but the real story is fringe benefits, projected to increase by 4.37 million to 32.65 million, reflecting a fringe rate of 47.01%. That fringe rate is largely driven by a retirement system contribution, health insurance cost. For the county health insurance, we have seen a double-digit increase over the last 2 years, and we are anticipating similar double-digit increase for 2027 as well. We are also projecting 853 FTEs, essentially keeping it flat from 2026. So this is not a staffing growth story, it's cost per employee story. So as you can see from our projections here, total budgeted FTE show growth from 758 in 2022 to 853 projected for 2027. The growth largely reflect expansion in service delivery capacity that was supported during and after the pandemic, some of it through funded initially through ARPA funding, but somehow we've maintained those services and continue to maintain those services through 2027 as well. So if you look at our capital and debt services, capital and debt services is another major cost driver with a projected contribution of 10.6 million, up 2.75 from 2026 budget. That reflects almost 1.26 million increase in infrastructure investment need. These are real investment in buildings, roads, equipment that keep county government functioning, but they carry a 4.84 point tax levy impact. that we cannot defer indefinitely. Some fiscals, primarily these fiscals are various contracts as well as our software. These are projected to increase by at least about 500,000 for which represent about 0.88% tax levy impact. These are costs embedded in our operation that have limited flexibility as well. So just a quick recap. Putting it all together on the expense side, total projected local expense increase for 2027 is about 10.38 million, representing an 18.25% tax levy impact. Before we apply any revenue offset or make any budget decision, that number should make clear why this is a challenging year for the county. Beyond what is already in the projection, there are several cost areas that remain uncertain heading into the budget process. These include potential living wage adjustment for county employees. So we have few positions in the county that are not currently receiving a living wage, and the legislature will need to make a decision how we address that. The minimum portion of that, if we combine some of our positions at the bottom end, will have about $1 million cost associated with that. So these are critical decisions that we are expecting the legislators will make as we get into 2027. We are also looking at changes to the RMR program, shelter services, the ongoing uncertainty around federal and state funding, emergency costs for gas and diesels are also unpredictable in the current environment. All these are budget threats, and none of them are reflected in the expense I've just walked through. So the maintenance of effort budget projection that we put together, I also want to flag what is not included in these numbers. The maintenance of effort budget is that we went through does not include any funding for TCAD, county share increase, no increase for TC3, and no cost of living adjustment for county supported agencies has been captured, including all of you. I want to be transparent about that because I know those are real needs that your organizations are experiencing. A quick dive into the revenue side of things. Sales tax is our largest non-property tax revenue, and trends have generally been positive. We saw a 2.78% increase from 2024 to 2025. So for first quarter 2026 as against first quarter 2025, we are seeing also a significant, some degree of increase of 3.8% over the same period. And this is quite encouraging, but it carries the other side, which is the burden on the expense side, which is way inadequate in meeting those expense drivers as well. So looking at how first quarter actually track against the full year budget, we can see the county has generally budgeted conservatively and performed reasonably well against those targets. 2026 is tracking ahead of the 2025 pace at this point in the year. Despite the positive early data, we are projecting 2026 sales tax revenue at the same level as 2027 numbers at the same level as 2026, which is 45.9 million, with zero local tax impact. Given the consumer confidence data and economic uncertainty, we believe it is prudent approach. We are not counting on sales tax growth to solve the budget gap at this point. Other revenue drivers, good news is casino revenue are projected to recover to about 2.5 million in 2027. We're also seeing about $400,000, about $85,000 increase also in our pilot revenue. and some other revenue drivers like rents and also room tax is pretty much flat. So all in all, we are just seeing about 0.69 tax levy impact on the revenue side. So in total, revenue change for 2027 provide a very modest 0.69% tax levy impact, essentially 393,000 of net revenue, set against 10.38 million in new costs. This leaves a very substantial gap that we need to close. A quick update on ARPA and our fund balance. In early 2024, the legislatures adopted a resolution which moved almost about $13 million from unassigned fund balance into dedicated reserve account for capital, self-insurance, workers' compensation, and unemployment cover. It also shifted our fund balance target from 18% of previous year's expense to 25%. From 18% of revenue and the new policy 25% of expense. As you can see from the chart, fund balance has declined from the highs of 2022 and 2023. So as of the end of 2025, we estimated our fund balance at approximately 43.8 million, but our new 25% target requires 60.3 million. Leaving us with a budget fund balance deficit of 16.5 million. Our current fund balance stands at 18.4% of expense. This means we are not in a position to use fund balance as a significant tool to offset 2027 gap. Doing so will push us further below our own policy target. ARPA is pretty much spent out. We have almost about $600,000 in operating expense in 2026 budget. That is not fully accounted for. We are not anticipating any extension of ARPA, but we are on course to make sure every single penny is spent against the program by the end of 2026. So the key decision point that we presented to the legislatures. If we were to adopt a full maintenance of effort budget with no cut, the tax levy will need to increase by approximately 17.56%, bringing the rate to $5.71 per thousand. On a home valued at the 2026 median value of 290,000, one of the legislators said there's no 290,000 home in Tompkins County. That would mean that an additional $246 per year on the county levy side. Don't forget the other towns and school districts are all looking at their tax levy increases or adjustment as well. So for a medium commercial property, you're looking at 460,000. We're looking at $375 increase in their tax bill. At the state tax cap level of 2.73%, the levy will only increase by 1.55 million, but that will require us to cut roughly 8.4 million from budget while leaving the rate at $4.99. $4.99. Each point on the levy is worth approximately 563,000. Closing the gap requires either revenue we don't have or spending cuts or some combination of both. So as we prepare to have our budget conversation, when we survey the legislatures this year using the CHIP, which is the Community Health Improvement Plan, and CHA, Community Health Assessment Framework, they identify nutrition, food security, and housing stability as their top community priorities. Those priorities will guide how we think about which services and partnership to protect as we work through the budget. Your work in this area is directly aligned with what the legislature has told us matters most to them. Further, we will be asking every part of the county government, including our community partner, to help us identify services that deliver the greatest measurable community impact while also looking hard at reducing reliance on emergency housing, reducing the downstream demand on social services and public health, and reducing law enforcement involvement where upstream investment can prevent it. We will also be working aggressively to maximize outside funding and volunteer resources so that county dollars can go a bit further. I want to close with a direct message because you deserve honesty from us, and we believe also we are heading into this process together. My goal is to bring to the legislatures a recommended budget that lands in the range of 5 to 7% tax levy increase. This is still a meaningful increase, roughly $2.8 to $4 million in additional levy. But arriving there will, from the 18.25% cost pressure means we will need to identify somewhere between $6 and $8 million in reduction, efficiencies, or structural changes. That is not a small number. It will require difficult choices. It will require us to have a candid conversation about what county government can and cannot fund and or increase, and that include our partnership with the community agencies. And I'm also not in the position today to tell you that COLA increases or expanded funding for partner agencies will be part of the recommended budget. I want to be honest about that rather than let you plan on resources that may not be there. What I can commit to is transparent process. We want to understand your priorities, your funding process, the outcomes you are achieving. The legislature has told us nutrition, food security, and housing stability are priorities. Your agencies are on the front line of delivering on these priorities every day. That matters as we make our decisions. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any question. I was sent 2 questions earlier, so
Yeah.
I don't know
I was
if
gonna
I
say
should just
I'm gonna drop one of them in the chat while other people
okay.
get a chance to think about it. So the first one, they're acknowledging a lot of unknowns and it's a big issue, but is it possible to say anything about how changes to SNAP and Medicaid eligibility requirements are being factored into the budget?
Yes. Thank you very much. And I think, as I indicated earlier, the community agencies and partners working with our department are doing really well in keeping people on their benefit. One of the biggest side is the error rate and the impact on and the reduction in service costs to the county. We continue to evaluate the impact as close as possible and also make some decisions very quickly. As I engaged with social services late last year, we identified that if we are going to stick with the plan as being presented to us, we may need to increase staffing at the eligibility unit at DSS. There is some pressures at the state level to carry some of that burden for and on behalf of the counties or be responsible for some of those elements of cost shift. Those conversations continue to happen. We do not know yet where the state will land as they negotiate the budget, but we'll continue to evaluate and make decisions as practical as possible.
Great, thank you. Another person dropped in. I noticed the changes in Medicaid expenses remained almost the same from 26 to 27. Do these projections consider the HR1 changes that will likely lead to a decrease in Medicaid enrollers and the increased demand for services in the nonprofit sector? also in the chat. So I know it's
Yes.
long.
So as I said earlier, Medicaid and SNAP, these are very difficult action areas for us. And there's a lot of moving part at the state level. So we continue to work with this NISAC and other community agencies or other county partners to evaluate what is happening at the state level and be prepared for it. Um, there is a lot of unknowns. The state has not really been clear about some decision points they are making yet. So we continue to evaluate that. I would say NISAC is putting a lot of pressure on our representatives to ensure that they capture some of these costs in their budget. So we'll continue to wait and see what the state directives will be. And OTIDA and the agencies has also not been absolutely clear in terms of how some of those changes will affect us. But I would say we are partially prepared because when it becomes significantly a financial burden, we may have to make some difficult choices at that end. We did capture, our hope is to be able to capture some level of contingencies in our budget or increase our contingencies a bit to cover some of those burdens, but we cannot fully be prepared for it because of the level of unknowns.
Sure. Great. I did drop the last question that we had gotten submitted earlier that I think you've talked about just a little bit, but I didn't know if there was anything that you would add about what additional funding might be made available for COFA contracts, ensuring that older adults' needs are met, especially with the food and fuel costs rising and also, I mean, all the things.
Yes. Thank you. I'm reading the question and Ali is smiling. I know exactly where the question came from.
I wasn't going to
I'm not
call
sure.
Ellie out,
I
but
don't know if I did it. That, sounds like something I would say.
Absolutely. And I think, as many of you are aware, Kofa is planning to move to our Dutchmore site somewhere in June. We are hoping there are few bits and pieces of work that need to be done to make the place ready for them to relocate to. We are really excited about what that space can provide for them in terms of service provision and programming. One of the things that is very difficult when it comes to COFA budget is usually by the time we are adopting the budget, we don't know what the county allocation will be because the program may not have been approved by state. Usually the state approve their program by November or sometimes in December. So it's sometimes very difficult not knowing exactly how much they are going to be receiving in their programming. So we'll continue to work with Lisa, the COFA team, to identify the gaps that exist and how we can provide some of those services. I think we have great programming with COFA and their working relationship with Food Nets and providing our residents in need some food. And I think I was there earlier on, I believe somewhere last year to work with the team and see the amazing work they do every day over there. And I think we'll continue to be committed to providing these services. It is essential for us to evaluate the programs, making sure we are maximizing the opportunities that are available and pouring the resources into the programs. The goal is to make sure every single person in need is met, their needs are met in one way, shape, or form. But we will be working with COFA and the agencies to make sure where gaps exist, we come up with practical processes to close those gaps.
Right.
Thank you, Ali, for your work.
Does anyone else have questions, either that you want to put in the chat or that you want to just unmute and ask? Quiet group. See, we didn't need to start at 3:30.
So as I'm not getting any question, thank you
Yeah,
all for your time and
absolutely.
inviting me into this wonderful space. Like I said earlier, we can only achieve the goals we set for ourselves if we approach our work with transparency and coordination. I am really excited about what you guys do in this community. And I think we are very resource rich, and we will continue to work with all of you to making sure the needs that exist within the community are fully met and also addressed. The county government cannot do it alone without all of you. And rest assured, we will not do anything deliberately to jeopardize your program. Our goal is to be transparent with all of you, to work with you on a day-to-day basis and make sure that we are getting the best outcome for the programs and the investment that we are making. And I appreciate every single one of you for your work. My doors are open all the time. Norma is here, Bridget is here. We also have Victoria, who is a budget analyst. Please reach out if you have questions. If you want to understand what is happening, there are some of the questions that I may not even have the answers yet. I would say when I met the legislators, I think if I put before them a tax levy request or a projected recommended budget around 7-8%, they'll beat me up, but I'll still do it. So we just have to approach the process this year as open-minded as possible to make sure we are doing right by the residents and we are also doing right by the people in need. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Korsah, for being here, and everyone that's working on this, and of course, everybody who attended. As you heard, please reach out if you just have questions that you don't want to ask in front of the whole group, and share this information. I believe we were able to record this. So if there's others who got kind of tripped up in joining but would like this information, we will have it available on the HSC website. I'm also dropping in the chat a few HSC announcements, just about upcoming things. Sorry for the formatting, it's ugly. But we have another forum. We're really excited to get forums going again. So obviously this was, of course, I got to kick us off on this. And we have another forum on June 9th. We're going to be sending out registration information shortly, but it is going to be presenting about the independent living survey that was done in 2024 that was really looking at the needs of youth and vulnerable populations. Specifically some around unhoused youth and what kind of impact COVID had, as well as precursors to homelessness and mental health needs. So a lot of really good information that's going to be on June 9th in person at the library. And we also have 2 upcoming workshops. So we have a workshop that's available to anybody in the local community, HSC community, so our local nonprofits. So we have Leading with Impact on May 28th with Amber Alpazar, and Nonprofit Budget Basics with Dwayne Schoen. So if anybody is looking for kind of information and looking at if you're leading organizations and it is feeling particularly challenging right now, Amber's workshop might be a good resource, as well as obviously anybody who's looking for some entry into nonprofit finances, because we all know how simple that is. So 2 good options. With that, unless there's any other questions or topics you'd like to see covered by HSC or through the forums, I think we are all set. And the incomparable Tamara from HSC has also just indicated in the chat that she will post the recording tomorrow. So thank you everybody for being here. I hope you have a good night. Bye, Allie. I see your face.